So the first book that I'm going to read to you guys is called The First Tortilla, and this is a bilingual book, which means that it's written by this author, but then it's also translated into Spanish. And this is a great book for people who have a Spanish-speaking family. They can read it in both languages. We're going to read it in English, but the Spanish will be there. So, The First Tortilla. And if you'll notice, this was from the University of New Mexico Press, Albuquerque. There are a lot of Spanish-speaking books that are really a part of, like, published in New Mexico. So anyway, The First Tortilla. You just get to sit back, relax, and enjoy. Okay. Jade opened her eyes and yawned. She knew she'd slept late because the sun had already risen. Time to awaken, precious Jade, her mother whispered. She was crushing dry chili pods in a metate. Time to greet the sun, her father said. He was weaving a basket. Each day, Jade's parents went to the village market to sell their colorful baskets. Jade jumped out of the hammock and greeted her parents. After breakfast, she hurried outside to water the garden. A huge volcano towered over Jade's village. On the peak of the mountains lived the mountain spirit. Where the mountain spirit spoke, the earth rumbled and smoke filled the sky. Sometimes burning lava poured down on the mountainside. Jade said a prayer. Mountain spirit, send us rain. Our bean and squash plants are dying. She picked up a clay pot and walked to the lake. Jade greeted the other village girls who were collecting water. The once beautiful lake was almost dry. She filled the pot and returned to the garden. As she worked, a lovely blue hummingbird flew in front of her. Is this like a current story? Like, is this happening today, right now, in some village in Mexico? No. Probably not. Okay, so this is kind of a historical book. Okay, so we can imagine later on we can do a little bit of research to find out what year kind of this is set in, but it is not currently happening in Mexico. Okay, currently Mexico is much more modern, although there are areas that are a little bit more, just like there are areas in the U.S. that are a little bit more agriculture, farm kind of based setting. You must go to the mountain spirit and ask for rain, the hummingbird whispered. And you must take a gift. Her father told her the small birds brought messages from the mountain spirit. Jade knew she must listen. The path is very dangerous, she said. I will guide you, the hummingbird replied. I think it's because it's beating, so it's like showing movement. Jade ran back into the hut. Who is it, my daughter? Her mother asked. Jade told her parents what had happened. Her mother smiled and said, a blue hummingbird flew over your crib when you were born. It was a special sign. Why didn't the rains come? Jade asked her father. Years ago we had rain and good harvest, but the people forgot to thank the mountain spirit. We did not take gifts to the mountain. Now it is angry and there is no rain. I can take a gift of food, Jade said. Her father shook his head. A girl cannot climb the mountain. You will fall from the cliffs like a bird without wings. Our gardens are dying, her mother said. Soon we must leave our home in search of food. That will be the end of our way of life. Right? Before modern irrigation systems, really the rain is what was necessary for people to survive. Jade grew sad. She knew the people did not want to leave their village. They had lived at the foot of the volcano for many generations. This had been the home of their ancestors. While her parents were gone to market, Jade walked to the garden, wondering what she could do to help the village. The blue hummingbird appeared again. The mountain spirit will listen to you, the bird whispered. Can I do it? Jade asked. Her father had said that she might fall from the cliff like a bird without wings, but if she didn't go, the entire village would suffer. Yes, I will go, she decided. She warmed a bowl of beans and squash and sprinkled chili powder on the food. I hope this pleases the mountain spirit, she said. She gathered a rebozo around her shoulders. So a rebozo is like a shawl. It's a traditional part of many women's traditional Mexican outfit. It's right here. So she gathered a rebozo around her shoulders and followed the hummingbird up the narrow path. Suddenly, a mountain shook. Boulders came crashing down. This way, the hummingbird cried. Jade jumped aside and the boulders missed her. Finally, they arrived at the home of the mountain spirit, where butterflies danced among a rainbow of flowers. A waterfall cascaded into a clear blue lake. Why have you come? The mountain spirit asked. Thunder and smoke filled the sky. I came to ask for rain. Without rain, our plants will die and we will starve. Your people no longer honor me, the mountain spirit said. I have never forgotten you, Jade answered. I brought you a gift. She uncovered a bowl of beans and squash. A pleasant aroma filled the air. The mountain spirit was pleased. You are a brave girl. I will send rain and I will give you a gift. You may have the food the ants store in the cave. Jade looked at the ants scurrying around. The ants carry pebbles, Jade said. Look closely, the mountain spirit whispered. Oh, look closely, the mountain spirit whispered. Jade fell on her knees. What are you carrying? She asked the ants. This is corn. Taste it, another ant said, offering a kernel. Jade chewed the corn. Oh, what a sweet flavor. Where does it come from? It grows here on Corn Mountain. We gather the grain, store them in a cave. Come with us. Jade followed the ants into a cavern. On the floor, she found piles of corn. Corn is a gift from the mountain spirit. Take all you want. Jade gathered corn in her rebozo. She thanked the mountain spirit. She thanked the hummingbird for guiding her. And she thanked the ants for sharing the corn. Then she carefully made her way down the mountain with her prize. Her parents had returned from the market. Jade entered her home and spilled the corn on the floor. What is this? Her father asked. Corn, Jade cried. The mountain spirit gave it to me. Here, taste it. Her father chewed a few dry kernels, and the corn softened with each bite. It was sweet and tasty. Good, said her father, but hard to chew. I will boil the corn in a clay pot, said her mother. I will make a pozol. When the pozol was ready, Jade's father tasted it. Wonderful, he exclaimed. We must thank the mountain spirit for this food. You know, corn was a very essential part of early Central American and Mexican life. Like, corn was a life-sustaining food, which, by the way, was brought from the New World to Europe. Before then, corn was not a part of a European diet. The New World, so the Americas, is where corn was found. And corn was really the life-sustaining food for many people. They scattered kernels of corn in their garden and said a prayer of thanks. That afternoon, clouds gathered on the mountain peaks. Soon a gentle rain fell. Later in the season, corn plants pushed through the earth. The corn tassels blossomed. Soon, tender ears of corn appeared on the stalks. Elotes, Jade said as she picked the corn. That evening, they ate corn, beans, and squash flavored with red chile. When the corn was dry, Jade placed some of the kernels in a metate and crushed them with a mano. She sprinkled the water on the cornmeal. The gruel was thick, like dough. Masa, Jade said. She patted the masa back and forth in her palms, and it was flat and round. Then she placed it on a hot stone near the fire. When they were eating, they smelled the masa cooking on the hot stone. Okay? I'm sure you can imagine what this masa is going to turn into. What a sweet aroma, said her father. The masa, Jade cried. There on the hot stone lay a freshly baked bread. She picked it up and offered it to her parents. Very good, delicious. What shall we call this bread? Jade thought a while. I'll call it a tortilla. I'm proud of you, her father said. We must share this with our neighbors, her mother added. Yeah, you're like, that sounds like a delicious way to make a tortilla, right? Yeah. It's not from a packet, a plastic bag, right? It's from
and it's like
handmade.
perfectly grown.
Mm-hmm. The following days, Jade went from home to home, teaching the women how to make tortillas. The corn plants grew, the corn tortillas became a favorite food of the people, and now the villagers did not need to leave their home. During the harvest fiesta, the people held a ceremony to thank the mountain spirit for giving them corn. They thanked Jade, the girl who baked the first tortilla. They're like, girl, thanks. So here's a little glossary. Jade is the girl's name, and that's a precious stone in ancient Mexico. I'm sure you've seen jade before. It's a greenish blue color. Rebozo is a shawl worn by Mexican women. A pozole, or pozole, a corn and meat stew. Elote is an ancient Mexican word for ear of corn. Metate is a concave rock where the corn is grown. And a mano is a smooth rock in which which it's ground. So you have a metate is like a bowl, and a lot of time it's made out of stone, and then you put the grains in it, and you use the mano to grind the corn. Have you ever seen that? Mortar and pestle is kind of what we call it in the U.S. And a lot of times it was used for medicine, but you also can use that. It's like a lot of times black, like a volcanic stone material, and then the grinder. So that's how you would grind your the grains, the corn, to make the masa, which is dough, which you can buy in the store. You can buy it pre-ground, and then you make masa with it. And then the tortilla, you all know. Okay? So here's the author's note. An ancient Mexican legend tells us that one of the Aztec gods turned himself into a black ant and entered a cave where ants had stored corn. He delivered the grains to the Mexicans, and this became their most important food. I used part of the legend to write Jade's story. It is her courage and discovery that brings corn to the people. The cultivation of corn made it possible for the great civilizations of Mesoamerica to flourish. You're going to be learning about those in 6th grade. The use of corn quickly spread through the Americas, becoming a staple food for many Native American communities. Corn, beans, and squash flavored with chile are still a traditional food today, right? We know that. Jade's tribe had their own word to describe the round, thin bread made from corn. Tortilla is a Spanish word. Am I missing a page? No. Tortilla is a Spanish word. I use the Spanish word in Jade's story because many words from the ancient Mexico are in our vocabulary. Mexican food is gaining in popularity around the world. Corn is used to make all sorts of tasty dishes. The discovery of corn was a miracle. It was a gift to the world. How many products made from corn can you name? By the way, that's like infinite, especially things with corn syrup. I mean, corn in general, cornmeal, corn grains, everything. The next time you eat a tortilla, I hope you appreciate the gift of corn and remember the girl who made the first tortilla. And here's more art. Isn't that beautiful? It's the
way beautiful.
The ants with their corn. I want to show you one more thing before I end the story. I'll pass it around. So this would be an example of the dried corn that would be used to make masa. And corn comes in all different colors. So here's an example of the corn that they would use that is purposefully dried out. Purposefully dried out and then used to make.
So they eat that like.
Well, this is what they're using to make grain.
Yeah, but one in the story they said that they ate it. That's cool.
Yeah, they tasted it, and then they realized it would be better for them to like soak it. She soaks it and makes a stew, and then later soaks it and adds water to it to make a dough.
That's cool.
I'll pass it around.